Welcome to Build. Thanks, everybody. I'm your host, Ricky Camilleri. You loved our next guest in American Pie, Orange is the New Black, Saving Silverman, so many other things. And now you can
So many
things. And now you can see Jason Biggs in the new Fox comedy Outmatched, where he is outmatched by his brilliant children. Please welcome Jason Biggs. Let's hear it.
Thank you. Hi.
What is it like to go to work every day and play the fool for 4 children?
Not unlike living at home, playing the fool to 2 children. It's really a lot of fun. It's pretty great. You know, for me now as a dad playing this role, you know, I played a dad once before I was a dad, and I'm sure I did a fine job. But there's something about now knowing emotionally what that's all about, you know, and even in a broad comedy like this, you know, there's a different sense of the reality of being a father and being able to ground it in that, you know. So it's been a lot of fun for me. And, you know, I also feel like these kids, these actors, you know, I feel kind of parental with them as well. It's sort of a little bit of foreshadowing, perhaps. You know, they're much older than my kids, but I'm kind of getting a glimpse into what, you know, being a dad of a teenager is like, for better or for worse.
That's interesting. I'm not a dad, and I always sort of when I imagine being a father, it's like all the good things, or even if it's the bad things, it's like the best way to deal with the bad things. And like mentally, you feel like you know how to do it and you could figure it out. But what I do like about your performance is that it seems to consistently come from a place of exhaustion.
Yeah.
Which is how I think most fathers and mothers actually exist.
I am so tired. It is exhausting, and you know, it's the other thing that I think really rings true for me that we hit on in the show quite a bit is the relationship between the mom and the dad. So, you know, in the show, Mike and Kay, Maggie Lawson, hilarious, plays my wife. We have. You know, we're a team, and we have scenes, actually quite funny scenes, where we, you know, have alone time down in the basement. The basement is our sort of safe space.
You go to smoke pot.
Where the 2 of us go to smoke pot, yeah. There's a funny line in the pilot about how, you know, we thought the basement would be where our kids would, you know, sneak away to smoke pot, but now we do. And so, but I love that because that's the case with Jenny and I, my wife. I mean, we are more a team now than we've ever been. And look, sometimes we're so exhausted or we're so annoyed, you know, the kids aggravate us or something happens, and, you know, the person you take it out on, of course, is your spouse, and we fight and the whole thing. But we have to be a team. I mean, we're the OG team, you know, and I can't do it without her, and vice versa. Well, she could probably do it without me, but I know I can't do it without her. And you know, so that's really great. I feel like that's something that feels very true to me about the show.
I also think I like that you and who's the actress that plays your wife?
Maggie Lawson.
Maggie Lawson are playing these kind of grown-up slackers.
Yeah.
They talk about having been slackers when they were in high school and how they were sort of half-assed everything, and they just want to be able to keep doing that, but their kids won't let them.
Won't let them. Yeah, and look, they love their kids, and they are super engaged in their children's lives. Their children's lives just happen to be extraordinary. So, you know, it goes well beyond what they expected in terms of being involved with their kids. You know, they were slackers. They figured they could kind of coast, you know, or at least, listen, parenthood will be hard, but you know, we'll figure it out. This is just next level for them. So, I mean, I personally cannot imagine what it's like. First of all, I can't imagine what it's like to have 4 kids, period. Average kids, even. You know, I've got 2, and it seems like, you know, it's insane. I mean, it's crazy. Never mind, by the way, being a single parent. That's a whole nother conversation that looks like, wow, incredible.
This isn't your first multicam sitcom, right? Or is it?
It's not. No, it's funny. My first TV job was in 1991 on Fox. It was a multi-camera sitcom called Drexel's Class with Dabney Coleman, and it went 1 season. And that was my first experience with multi-camera and the live audience and the whole thing. And then I've done some since then, a bunch of pilots. I guested on shows like Will and Grace and Frasier and stuff. But I love it. I love it. You know, I think multi-camera, you know, it's first of all, I think it's a bit of a dying art, you know, and I appreciate the networks that are trying to keep it in their, you know, keep these kinds of shows in their schedule. But it's a comedically, it's a very specific rhythm. you know, and it's all the actors and the writers are basically, you know, the writers are writing a song and the actors are singing it. It's very melodic. You got to hear the rhythm of the jokes and the beats, and you know, and then allow the audience to come in, and their laughter also times out the whole show, and it's technically quite specific, and you know, I don't think a lot of or not all, I think, actors can do this kind of thing. You know, it's a very interesting kind of world that I appreciate.
When you weren't in the world of multicam, when you went back to it, were you nervous about going back to it, or did you feel like, having done it for a year in 1991, when you were, how old were you when you did that?
I was 12, 13.
When you were 12 or 13,
Yeah.
it was just kind of in your bones, and you knew exactly what to do.
I remember when I was a kid taking to it very quickly. I do remember loving it and it feeling very organic for my kind of performance. And over the years, having done a little bit more of it, but also doing theater too, you know, and also comedies on stage, it's very similar. You know, it's that same sort of thing. There's a way to deliver a joke. There's a way that you can make a joke sound to make it land harder with the audience. You know, you play with rhythm, you play with the beats. You know, you leave a certain beat here, the joke becomes this. If you don't take the beat, the joke becomes that. It's that stuff. I'm like a comedy nerd with that stuff. I love it. I love watching multi-camera sitcoms for that reason. You know, it's
because
fun.
Oftentimes with multi-camera sitcoms, I think that the jokes are different than the jokes themselves can be different than they are in a single camera sitcom,
course.
right? I do think a single camera sitcom like 30 Rock, for instance, which always use that as a reference, the jokes have to be stronger, might sound like a better word, but because there's no laugh track, the jokes have to be a very clear joke. Whereas in a multicam, a joke can kind of just be an aside that somebody says. If it's delivered in the correct way, it can be funny to the audience because of the format.
Totally. And sometimes you don't even know. Sometimes you're finding the jokes in front of the live audience. You don't realize necessarily that, you know, that pause for whatever reason was going to get a laugh, you know, because they kind of, maybe they anticipate what's going to come, or but yeah, I do think that's a good comparison. You know, the single cam versus multicam. It's you know, but you're also allowed to be a bit more subtle in single cam too, I believe, because just in terms of the camera positions, you know, you shoot it like a film. You can get, you know, you could do proper close-ups, you know, you could focus more on looks, or, you know, whatever it is. Whereas multi-camera, you know, there's the fourth wall component, you know, it is more of a stage play. And so generally speaking, the performances will tend to get a little bit broader for that reason, and the jokes will as well. But, you know, you got to sort of get across that fourth wall. You know, you're not, as opposed to a single camera where you feel like you're in the office with Alec Baldwin and Tina Fey. You know, you're part of the conversation. This is you're watching the whole thing unfold differently.
Do you find that with a multicam, do you get shorter days essentially? Like, I mean,
yes.
Yeah, right. I mean,
yeah,
that's
people
have
have said, I mean, I'm sure you've heard. Yeah, it is the best schedule in show business without a doubt. It is. And I didn't seek it out necessarily. You know, this job happened to, everything worked out for me, but it has been the biggest blessing in the world because I'm commuting out to LA. My family's here, so I'm able to. But it's a set schedule. It's all in a sound stage. We don't have to worry about weather. The hours are much shorter. We shoot, you know, one episode a week, so I can actually schedule a life around that. Conversely, a single camera, you know, you just never know. Am I working tomorrow? No, I have off tomorrow. Oh, okay, it's a whole day. I'm working Thursday and Friday. How late are we going to go? Who knows? 2 a.m? You know, this is
bumping the hours by, you know,
each day. Yeah, exactly. By the time you get
Saturday
Friday
morning, you're sleeping till 1 p.m. or something.
Exactly.
Not seeing your kids. Yeah.
Whereas I'm on a red-eye flight every Friday after the show, and I'm home Saturday morning with my kiddos.
Wow.
So yeah, it's been, I'm very lucky.
So when it came along, you were kind of like, yeah, that sounds great. Let's do it.
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, obviously there's always, for me now being New York based and having children, you know, it's always, well, what's shooting in New York, you know? And by the way, there are shows shooting here, but still the overwhelming majority are all of the shows that are here are single camera, but the majority of TV shows in general are shooting elsewhere. You know, there's a lot of shows in New York, but more are still in LA or Vancouver, or, you know, so of all the shows that I could have sort of landed on, you know, short of working in New York, this is the next best case scenario for me.
You know, Orange is the New Black, as much of a dramedy or dark comedy that it was, there was a lot of drama that I felt like you got to do, which was something we don't often get to see you do on camera. Was that rewarding, and do you look to do that again? Do you want to do that again?
Yeah, it was really rewarding. It was a lot of fun for me. I mean, that show was brilliant in its tone, right? Like, I was talking about this earlier. One year it was nominated for Best Comedy, and the next year it was nominated for Best Drama, which is crazy to think about, right? You know, and to straddle that line tonally. And all of the performers got to work in that world. So there were days where I'd show up and the scene would be, you know, I'd have to lean into the comedy a little bit. But even the funny scenes, you know, as opposed to doing a multi-camera, as opposed to doing something like Outmatched, where we're going for the joke, right?
Yeah.
You know, a show like Orange is the New Black, which is very grounded in reality. You know, the comedy is a bit more subtle, and
you can let the writing do the work.
you let the writing do the work. That's exactly right. So, but it was so even just doing the comedic scenes were rewarding for me. But the dramatic stuff was a lot of fun. And you know, it's funny as I'm. Orange is the New Black came at an interesting time for me, very transitional in my personal life and obviously professionally. But I think even since I've had kids, I find myself more intrigued to do drama. I did a film last year, an indie, that was very dramatic, and as I was doing it, you know, one thing I took from the experience was I'm allowing myself now to really lead with my vulnerability, and I think that's something that is a direct result of not just my age, but being a parent specifically. Like you know, being a parent has sort of wired me completely in terms of how I feel about things, how I feel about people emotionally, what I'm willing to say, how I'm willing to let myself feel. I don't even. It's not even about letting myself. It's just sort of, it just sort of happens, right? And
do you think that also might have to do with being so many years away from a period of time where you were categorized as one type of actor, and you had this kind of success where I'm sure it was somewhat overwhelming, and they were like, "We're going to put you in all these different, in all these one kind of movies, really, where you're going to be this thing," and then when that isn't happening anymore, and you're sort of rethinking about what your career is, I'm sure that is still something that is lingering in the back of your mind, almost like a microaggression trauma that you experienced.
Oh, 1,000,000%. That's yeah. I mean, I do believe the further, obviously, I get away from that, the more, you know, and the more I sort of just live my life as a changed person. It's clear that I'm growing up. Jason is growing up. I'm a family person now. I'm a family man. My priorities have shifted. You know, I also think living in New York for me has been a big part of that. There's been a lot of things that have changed about my life. I'm sober. That's something that has been really big in terms of how the feelings I access and the way I present myself to the world. I think, you know.
Did you struggle with that? I didn't know.
Yeah, I mean, it was not healthy. It became unhealthy for me. Yeah. It became something. It became enough of an issue to where I wanted to address it. Yeah. And so I have, and it's been a few years now, and it's
congrats.
Thank you. And it's been amazing. For me, it has. I believe. And I believe people see it, even if they don't know what it is. I do believe that. I believe that I'm putting something out into the world now that is totally different than the American Pie guy. That's for sure. From something, you know, but not just in age, but in real sort of like, oh, that was a different guy, you know, as happens when 20 years go by in a person's life. But I've also put the work into it. Yeah. I've also not just let myself change with the times, as it were. I've actually made a conscious effort to say, who do I want to be? You know, I want to be a dad, number one. I want to be a good husband. And I want to be a worker amongst workers. I want to show up and do the best job that I can do on set. And I want to continue to be employable. And so because of those being my priorities now, I've had to actually work at it a little bit, you know. And that's one of the things I had to do was get sober.
That's one of those things, right, I would never experience anything like what you experienced, but this idea of figuring out what you want, because for so long you are surrounded by people telling you what you should be and what is
you
best
should do,
for you,
what's
going to make the most money, and you can't even think about, well, what do I want? There's no real, I guess I want what they want.
you just assume that's it.
Yeah.
It's not that you're not thinking about what you want. You just assume that is what you want. And by the way, and I did. I mean, after American Pie came out and I was doing all those sort of similar kinds of, movies and this Saving Silverman's and Loser and all those sorts of things, it was I wanted that as well,
It's not the worst life.
It's not the worst life, but did that later on, did that, did sort of doing that one kind of role in one kind of movie, did that affect, the casting of me in other things? Of course, And look, the good news for me, and, I was a kid actor, as we talked about earlier. Like, I was as best prepared as one could be. It's still hard, and it still is like, it's difficult especially when your identity is very wrapped up in your work. And in my case, it's been my whole life that I've been working and doing this. So when you're not working, it's really hard. But at least I'd say I was more prepared than most, because I had already seen the sort of fickleness of the industry. I'd seen the ups and downs. I had gone years without working as a kid after being on a TV show. I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. I'm on a primetime TV show. And then it gets canceled and I don't work for 2 years. That's real stuff that you go, okay. Oh, so that's how this stuff works. So even with American Pie, it was like, okay, great, but
ride this wave. We'll see.
Yeah. And I wrote it as long as I could. And by the way, I'm still writing it to some extent,
you are the star of a network.
Yeah. And it's been the biggest blessing in the world for me. But but it is interesting, all that stuff. I mean, I'm fascinated by it all, and it's interesting. It's interesting stuff. Yeah.
Absolutely. Speaking of American Pie, though, there are a couple guest stars coming on the show, right? Who's coming on?
So next week's episode, not that airs, we're going to shoot it next week. It'll air in March. Alyson Hannigan, my American Pie wife, and Eddie K. Thomas, who played Finch in the movies, who actually is one of my real-life best friends. They're going to come on an episode. They're going to play a married couple, which I'm a little jealous about, but that's fine. They're going to play a married couple and parents to some genius kids that are in our genius kids class. And so we become friends with them because we're trying to branch out and Mike and Kay are not geniuses at all. And so we become friends with this couple.
They're geniuses.
And they're geniuses as well. They're like helicopter parents. And basically we end up like negatively influencing them. Maybe we get them drunk. I'm not quite sure. I haven't read the script yet. But, that kind of thing. It sounds really funny. But the bottom line is, Alyson and Eddie are gonna be on the show with me, and I'm so stoked. They're the best.
You guys, how many movies did all of you guys make?
We did
together?
4.
You did 4.
Yeah.
So that means that you guys have to like being around each other in terms of a cast, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So what was it like when the network or someone proposed to you? We have these 2 parts. Maybe we can get them. How did that happen?
Yeah, it's it was kind of, I don't know who first, but I from the very beginning was like, look, I have some friends. If there's some cool guest star roles, it would be really fun. Someone mentioned American Pie. Thought it'd be great for like a reunion. Obviously, Fox is very excited. They can certainly advertise it as what it is, an American Pie reunion. And I just picked up the phone and called them. I mean, and nothing. It made me feel really, really good. I have to say, I was like so happy. They didn't. They just said yes right away. I mean, Eddie's one of my dearest friends. I mean, we go back even before American Pie, actually. Oh, wow. We were both kid actors in the city, and we knew each other, but we weren't.
In New York?
In New York, yeah. He started when he was 8. I started when I was 5. So we had quite a few years. We had the same agent for a while. We would audition together all the time. We knew each other, but we didn't really hang out because I would go back to Jersey. He was a city kid. And so, but then when we got American Pie, I remember seeing him at the first table where he'd like, "What's up, man?" And
how old were you guys when you got it?
I was 19 and he was 17. Wow. Yeah, crazy. He didn't have his driver's license yet. I remember we were shooting American Pie. He's a city kid, but we were shooting American Pie, and he had like a couple days off, and he came back to New York. We shot it in LA. He came back home and got his driver's license, and he came back out to L.A. and he was so proud. He's like, I got my driver's license. Check this out. And that was an amazing moment because his real name is not Eddie K. Thomas. And so I was like, what is this name on your license? What is that? And now it's now my nickname for him. I call him by that name. But anyway, we were young. We were in diapers, man. It's crazy. Literally, we wore diapers on set just so we wouldn't have to take breaks. They really worked us hard.
Right.
We weren't allowed to eat. It was crazy.
I want to see Sean William Scott come on as a worse parent than you guys.
I know, right?
Right. He could come on and be a single dad who's a worse parent but has genius kids somehow.
Listen, another great idea. Yeah. And I would call Shawnee in a heartbeat. Actually, Maggie knows Sean as well because they played a married couple on, or were they married? I don't know if they were married, but they were. Maggie was on Lethal Weapon with Sean, so they're buds too. So that's actually a great idea. Yeah. Not giving you credit for it if it happens.
You don't have to. You don't have to. I mean, credit has been given to me. It's on video on the internet.
Okay, but you know,
as is you saying that you're not going to give me credit. I mean,
yeah, which is weird.
Yeah, you're making yourself out to be.
You know what? I'm going to burn this tape. I'm going to burn the internet. Screw it. This is done. Just for this, I got to burn the internet. That's it. I got to blow it up.
We have a question coming in from Twitter. Is what was it like to work with Tony Danza?
Oh my gosh, amazing. So he's in tonight's episode. He guest stars as my dad. Tony Danza, first of all, ledge. He is the nicest guy. The nicest, and he is such a I mean, him in that format, multi-camera, right? Taxi, Who's the Boss? He's just like it's home for him. He entertains the crew between takes. He's tap dancing. He's telling stories. He's telling jokes. It was funny because I would be asking him questions about Who's the Boss, or even more about Taxi, and he would have a story for everything, and it was never annoyed about me asking questions. In fact, sometimes he would bring something up, something would happen, and he'd be like, "Oh, that reminds me of the time Andy Kaufman," and I'd be like, "What? Andy Kaufman did what?" And I would just sit there, just rapt. But the kids, it's so funny. I would talk to the kids and be like, "Do you know who Andy Kaufman is?" And they're like, "No." I'm like, "Oh my God, you gotta go on YouTube. You gotta check out some Andy Kaufman stuff." But Tony would tell me these stories that were just incredible. I mean, yeah, he's the best. He was great.
I wonder if Andy Kaufman makes sense to kids at this point, because so much of comedy is disruptive. Like,
yeah.
I mean, if you grow up with something like Tim and Eric, and then someone introduces you to Andy Kaufman, are you gonna care? Are you gonna get it?
Great. That's a great question. I think about that with even like the American Pie kind of comedy. Like, we're kind of anesthetized at this point. We've seen it all. What is left to shock us? You know what I mean? Especially
American Pie was so
shocking
like that, and Something About Mary at that time were
shocking,
humongously shocking. And now it's like, I mean, you could find those jokes on network television right now.
Totally. So it's interesting how comedy in general has changed because of that. But you're absolutely right. I think, does Andy Kaufman hold up? It's like
I feel like he does
to us. Yeah.
Yeah, if you know what it was like at that time and how there was nothing else like that.
Exactly.
But I remember even. Like, I loved Andy Kaufman, but I didn't get the wrestling thing. And when people showed it to me, I was just kind of like, it just looks like wrestling because I've grown up with wrestling. What's the big deal? Now, for some reason, it clicks and I get it because the misogyny of the character is so over the top. It makes sense to me. Doesn't make sense to me, excuse me. I get it. But I don't know if like a 13-year-old kid or something would really understand.
That guy's wrestling a woman? Why? Yeah. What is he doing? Why did he pick a girl out of the crowd to wrestle her?
He's doing an Elvis impression, okay.
I mean, I appreciate it in a different way than I think kids today would, for sure. Yeah. Kids today, I never thought I'd be sitting here going, oh, kids today. Jeez.
A few questions from the audience. Who's a question? Right here.
Hi, Jason.
Hi.
How are you? It's good
What's
to
your
see
name?
you. Chanel.
Hey, Chanel.
Actually, funny story. You used to work at the Gap.
I did?
Yeah, I worked with you at the Gap.
Oh, my God.
City Plaza. So I'm always proud when I see you in American Pie. I'm like, that's Jason from Hasbro Nights, baby.
That is awesome.
Yes, so long time
I totally remember you.
And he took my phone. I'm sorry, but it's all good. I wanted to
Yeah,
ask
I took a selfie, and then I was like, thanks for the phone, and started walking away. She was like, wait, what?
Yeah, it's good to see you still have your humor. So I wanted to ask you, now that you become a dad, how does it affect the roles that you take on now, the ones that you partake in now?
Yeah. Are you a mom? Can I ask? Do you mind?
Times 4 now, Jason.
What? That's crazy. Yes. Oh, my God. That was in 1997, 96, 97. It's so good to see you, really. It's so good to see you. It's so cool. Yeah, how does it affect? I mean, we kind of touched on it a little bit. I mean, I definitely am bringing a totally different perspective to this role, completely different. You know, I think, like I said, I played a dad only once before I was an actual dad. And I just remember thinking, these are the lines I have to say. This is what, I have nephews. Oh, okay, sweet, a cute kid, But it was more like I was working with a kid actor. Now I get the emotional context in being a parent and how real that is and how intense that is. And I think I'm bringing that just innately. You can't not bring it as a dad, and especially because I'm not with my kids during the week. I'm with these kids during the week. And I miss my kids so much. And so, there is definitely, they're kind of vicariously my children for the week.
Little emotional transference, yeah.
I'm sure. Yep. And so, yeah, it's changed everything for sure. Yeah, without a doubt. And I love playing a dad. It feels... I keep talking about, how I've come full circle and how nostalgic it feels. Last week's episode we had the sex talk with the kids in the episode. And, it didn't occur to me, actually, while we were shooting it. It occurred to me last week when I was promoting it that 21 years ago, I famously got this sex talk from my dad in a comedy. And now here I am giving my kids the sex talk. But I love that. It feels like I'm sitting in a very content place at the moment as a real dad, as a guy playing a dad, being back on a multicam, kind of having these sort of being filled with nostalgia and pride. I'm super proud of American Pie and its legacy, and yeah, it's been very cool.
Was the last
so good to see you?
Was the last one American Reunion or American? Which one was the last one?
Reunion.
Can we do like American Midlife Crisis?
I mean, sure.
Because that seems like the age point that you guys, and then the next one will be American Nursing Home.
American Nursing Home, yeah.
And then,
by the way,
Hospice.
Some crazy shit happens in the nursing home. We all know it. The possibilities are kind of endless. Well, my idea now, I mean, originally, after we did the last one, and Jim's dad and Stifler's mom get together, there was an idea that we kicked around about Jim's dad's bachelor party. And we all go to that, and craziness ensues. That could be fun. We could be traveling. We go to Vegas or something. I mean, Jim's dad in Vegas, Eugene Levy in Vegas. Come on. But now I feel like, and maybe we even need more time to pass. But I kind of feel like, now it'll be. I have a teenage son in high school. And I'm essentially the Jim's dad character. Eugene is still there as the grandfather, but then we can introduce a whole new sort of generation of viewers and also actors that we could get to come in and kind of keep it going. Maybe, I don't know. That would be fun. I feel like that's sort of that tends to be a theme with reboots these days, right? Is like, how do we keep the old characters but introduce the next generation of them? A la Shia LaBeouf in Indiana Jones or whatever it is. I feel like that could be fun.
So you're saying American Hospice is out?
For now.
Okay.
But listen, listen, I'll do it.
Thank you.
I'll do any of them. Just come to me. I'm easy, man. Yeah, you want to do, if it's American, if it has American in the title, I'll do it.
One more.
Hey, Jason, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, thanks. I was just wondering, are there any bloopers or memorable moments while filming Outmatched?
Oh God, yeah. Every time we tape, there are lots with Tony. Actually, Tony was amazing. Yeah, specifically, I don't know. I just know every episode we've taped, because it's a live audience too, which is super fun. So there's always, the audience loves when we mess up. It's because it's like it takes you out of it for a second. You go, oh my God, and it can be quite funny. And so and by the way, we will mess up. I mean, there's never a perfect show. In fact, it usually happens in the first take. If we could do a first take from beginning to end without messing up in front of the live audience, it is very impressive. Usually someone screws up. Before we go, we're usually like, so who's going to be the first one to fuck up? Who's going to be you? I say not fuck to the kids, but but we like playing around like that. But it's you know, with Tony, he has such a thick accent, and all of us ended up basically trying to do our impression of him the entire time we were taping the episode. Once or twice, I did it in a take, and I was like, wait, because he's just like, hey, you know, he's got such a thick accent, you know, he talks like he's, you know, I mean, he is. He's from back here, he's from Bronx and whatever, and he just kind of lays it on really thick. And, you know, that first line, he comes in, he's like, bang, you're all dead. House full of geniuses. No one thinks to lock the front door. And it was like contagious. I was doing that all week long. And so like I'd go to deliver a line and be like, wait, that's not how I talk. This is very strange. Only Tony and he loved it. He was like, he loved it. He ate it up. It was fun. There's always bloopers. Yeah. Maybe we'll do a blooper reel or something. That'd be cool.
Jason, the show is on tonight on Fox, Thursday night.
Tonight, 8:30 on Fox. Yeah.
8:30 on Fox.
Yep.
Jason Biggs, everybody. Let's hear it.
Thank you.